Good evening. Welcome to the Tennessee Thunder podcast with your host, Stephanie Davis. And Tennessee Thunder is a watchdog covering local politics across the state of Tennessee. We are on Twitter, or I'm sorry, X, formerly known as Twitter, as well as Facebook and YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our podcast, especially on YouTube. We're trying to get more people over to YouTube and eventually Rumble, but we still have some issues with Rumble, trying to make that work. We've been working really hard on that this week. It's got some little glitches to it. The Tennessee Thunder podcast is made possible by the Tennessee Freedom Coalition, whose mission is to restore a constitutional Tennessee free from government overreach, one county at a time. And as always, like I mentioned, be sure to like and subscribe to us on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, and X. Tonight, I am going to be going solo for the first part of the podcast. Our Jason Mills could not be with us this evening due to work-related commitments. We will miss Jason this evening, but as they say in show business, the show must go on, right? We are going to be joined by a special guest who will be joining us shortly. But first, we have some announcements. County Commission has been rescheduled due to the inclement weather to next Monday night, January 29th at 7 p.m. That's something that you'll definitely want to be at. We are expecting that County Commission will be bringing up some tax raising possible issues so prep yourself for 24 because it's coming, folks. They've got a lot of plans for we the people. Remember, we're just like a blank checkbook to them. So you need to make sure you're warming those seats on Monday night. Our social mixer, it is our dessert mixer, is January 30th, the following night at Hardee's at 7 p.m. We, just like everybody else, money has been a little tight this year, especially with the holidays. A lot of people, of course, are missing work because of the snow and the inclement weather. So everybody's a little money crunch right now. We're just trying to keep our expenses down by having it at Hardee's. You can bring a dessert, some cookies, cake, pie, something Valentine if you wish. I think, though, we will have another mixer before Valentine's Day, or at least in that general time span. But be sure just to bring something. And then if you can do me a favor and buy your drink, whether it's coffee or Coke from Hardee's there, we won't have to pay for the rented space. That's all they ask, is that we give them a little business. It's only right. So we're going to keep our expenses low. And I'm sorry about the noise. If you hear anything, I have cats in the house, and for some reason they've decided to do a rough and tumble session during the podcast. That's okay. It's part of being a fur baby lover. All right, so Hardee's, January 30th at 7 p.m. School choice trip, that's coming up. This is basically the trip that we made last month, repeated again this month, except this month, we are actually hoping to get in front of more legislators about our ideas of what should be in that bill. This is something that we are really turning up this year. We are going to be focused on solutions. This is our solution year. Besides fighting all the grift and all of the tax-loving politicians out there by exposing all of their plans to the public, we are also solution-based. We always have been, but we're really going to put that at the top of the list this year. So anytime you hear us talking about spending tax politicians, we're going to have some sort of a solution that goes with it. So if you would like to be a part of that, everybody likes to complain, but it's a little tougher when you try to put things in action to fix the problems. And so you actually have a unique opportunity here to be a part of that bill making process. Now, I don't know what the language is going to be. None of us do. We know what we would like to see in the bill. We know the language we would like to see. Now, when I say we're talking about the citizens across the state that want school choice. School choice is just a buzzword for educational scholarship. And basically, the money that would be provided is the part of the budget that they provide from the state of Tennessee per student. The cost overall is around $17,000 per student. So they would basically take the $7,000 the state normally provides the public schools and have that money per child per year. So that's what this is about. And the language is going to be key in deciding if we want to support the bill or if we want to table it or if we want to kill it in the committee. So we have a lot of options here. And folks, you got to keep an open mind. And when they're doing these things, you got to be on the front end, just like football. You got to be the person that drives that ball down the field into the touchdown. And you got to be on the team. And so let's not do like we have done in the past and wait for the football, just be fans and spectators on the side and hope that our guy makes a touchdown. We are actually on the team that makes the touchdown. So we're all a part of this team. And that's why we want you to join us on February 6th. It's on a Tuesday to go to Nashville. Now, this is an all expenses paid event. Your food and your transportation is paid. We usually leave around 7 a.m. Probably somewhere here in Union County or in Halls is where we will meet. Usually it's around Food City where you can park your car safely. And then we return that evening around 7 or 8 o'clock. So they feed you well. Usually we have a nice meal when we get to the Capitol. So you will not be hungry and you will thoroughly enjoy meeting other constitutional loving American citizens that'll be on this trip. If you are a teacher, you want to look more into this yourself and just kind of keep an open mind to the job opportunities there for you. I would also urge that you come with us. If you're a parent that wants other options for your child, we all know that our schools are failing, and we've got to have something besides a cookie cutter type educational system that is no longer showing the merit that it once did. So we've got to make sure that we have all of you on board with us for that trip. If you'd like to go with us, just give me a call, send me a message, and I'll make sure that we wait on you for that trip. Okay, let me see what else we have. I think that is all of the announcements. Tonight, we're going to have a couple of topics. I had hoped to cover the school board election, but unfortunately, I was unable due to a working schedule and conflicts to get a list of the people running for school board. And I'm assuming it's too late to run for school board, even if you wanted to at this time. But hopefully by the next podcast, I'll have that information for you. And how many of you have enjoyed the snow and how many of you are ready to get out? I actually broke through the ice prison today and got back out on the road. Was so happy. It just lifted me up. I was beginning to get so blue with those cabin fever blues. And today I got back out and it was really invigorating. I loved it and had a great time working. Went out, had a bite to eat and just kind of feeling normal again. So hopefully everybody will get to do the same over the next few days. I know some of you have worse road conditions than others, depending on where you live. I encountered some of that today when I was working out in different areas of town. So I understand your pain. But anyway, tonight, I want to get on down to the subject at hand. I'm going to skip through the Board of Education because we are not going to cover that tonight. Okay, so many of you may have heard some information about some more constable issues. I know that this is something that probably many of you are familiar with because we had the same problem here in Union County. We are basically the constables, they can't catch a break. We have laws in the state of Tennessee that unfortunately are going against them. And they are wonderful men and women. They do a wonderful job in law enforcement. They are like the community sheriff, like the mini sheriff of each community. And, our constables here in Union County are very valuable to us. We love our constables. Our active constables, we have 3 or 4 guys that are doing a fantastic job doing everything from drug related investigations to seizures to saving lives. We actually had a constable of the year last year that saved a young boy's life, kept him from choking. And we recognized him publicly on the front steps of the courthouse. And we love our constables. Those are our first line of defense here in our community. Well, you would think that all communities would feel the same, but unfortunately, politics and bureaucracy often get in the way, like it tried to here in Union County. So I was contacted about a week and a half ago, right before the weather event, by the head of the Constable Council, Tennessee Constable Association, and the Greene County Commission drafted a resolution to not only defund, because their constables like ours were not funded. Ours were originally for just gas and things like that. But not only did they want to, they didn't want to defund their constables. They wanted to do worse and abolish their first line of defense for their citizens. And this kind of happened all really quickly. We only had like a couple of weeks to prepare for it. But as you know, the Tennessee Freedom Coalition, we're all about protecting our constables. That is one of the things that we do because we've had experience with it. And when we see that happening across the state where these commissioners, politicians, sheriffs, whatever, go against the constables, we're usually the first in line to defend them. So last night, after we had basically had about a week-long campaign online because we couldn't go anywhere because we were all stuck in because of the snow, we actually did a social media campaign to expose what was happening in Greene County. So basically, we joined some groups. I got some people together that understood the constable issue so that we would speak from a point of education or from a point of knowledge so that these bureaucrats would understand what they were doing and they would understand how it affected others across the state of Tennessee. And, it's always better to make a decision based on facts. And in these situations, always, every time, and I'm not exaggerating, none of these cases that come up with county commissioners that try to abolish their own law enforcement, they're free and elected, we the people law enforcement, constitutional office, every time it is always something like, oh, they're going to present a liability. Well, we know we debunked that. That's one of the first things that they always throw at you. Well, the Greene County Sheriff apparently decided, I guess, that he would lobby the county commission to abolish the constables because he claims that he has built his police force up enough to handle all of the traffic, all of the cases, all of the police work, which I find totally unbelievable. But as we know and as we have seen in these uncertain times, police departments and sheriff's offices can go up and they can go down based on the whims of whatever madness and craziness happens, whether it's some sort of a pandemic, people losing their jobs, the economy, name it, it affects law enforcement. And, you know, these sheriffs may think, well, we got it good now. So, you know, we're not really worried about it. They're not thinking down the road. And that's where we get into a lot of these crazy entanglements where they think they know they've got it together and they just basically say, oh, we don't need anybody's help. Well, for one, when did it become a place that one office holder can decide that your vote with another office holder can just go away? Oh, I'm just powerful and I'm just going to make that office go away. That is not constitutional, is it? Why are we even having this conversation? So I decided to look at some of the reasons why that perhaps constables are having a hard time. Okay. So we're going to get into that. And if you have any ideas yourself or any feedback, I'd like to see your comments below. So we'll get into answering them at the end. So my ideas here is that why are these actions continuing to be used by commissioners, county commissioners, who are listening to special interest across the state? Okay. Now, that special interest may not always be sheriffs. Some sheriffs like their constables. Some sheriffs love their constables. They actually utilize their assistance in these situations where they may come up short, not having enough staff. Here in Union County, we have that situation right now. We have constables working with our sheriff's office. I don't know what the case was before that, but our constables now are all engaged and active. Now, I don't know. I know we have several that, and all counties have this, that do not do anything. Okay. But that's just the way it is across the state. Now, remember, this is a free position. These guys and gals usually work other jobs. So they do this in their free time, basically, like after hours. And remember, they got families too. So the ones that are engaged and loving what they do and they're serving we the people, they're providing their own vehicles, their own uniforms, and their own time to protect and be the first line of defense in your community. There's a lot of confusion as what constables do, but they basically have the same law enforcement powers that a deputy sheriff has. Okay. And they also have to go to training, and there's all these state laws about managing the office of constable when things may go wrong. So they're covered there. And of course, each year, those laws increase and it gets better and better for the constables. But since 1977, when they were taken out of the Constitution, someone somewhere got to a legislator. Okay. And because I know this because I know how this happens. Our state reps and our senators don't just come up with this stuff on their own. They are lobbied into creating laws. Okay. So someone way back then did our constables a disservice. They basically had somebody that didn't like them. Okay. So tonight we're going to just kind of cover the top of why I think that may be. And this is not to just point out the sheriff issue, but it seems to be that sheriffs in general, especially if they've never worked with constables, that there is a misconception. Maybe they just don't want to work with constables because they want to hire their own people. There's a lot of different ideas about it as far as where the head of the sheriff is. So the first one is, if it's free, it's for me. So sheriff departments require budget dollars to add personnel. Constables cost nothing to the taxpayer, and perhaps the availability of the constables and their willingness to work at no or low cost affects the sheriff's ability to ask for funding to staff from conservative county commissioners. Perhaps it's just a thing that, they're afraid that when they go to the county commissions to ask for so much for personnel, that someone will wise up and say, well, we have constables. Why would we need to add someone else this year? Because the money's tight. It's one of those type of arguments. So that's one idea that it could be. Competition. Perhaps constables upstage some sheriff departments. Now, I'm not saying that's typical. I'm saying that's more of a fear. Okay. I think there's more of a fear when the egos are on the line and everybody's trying to save the day. Law enforcement can be very competitive relative to image and egos. Imagine being the sheriff and having a constable successful and rounding up drug dealers that were previously untouchable. Constables, like I said, are like mini sheriffs. So perhaps that's a problem. Okay. Power in politics. Commissioners go along sometimes with the requests from the sheriff's offices when they go after the constables due to the sheriff's tremendous lobbying power. Sheriff's associations have major dollars behind them, and they've been a very powerful point in Tennessee politics since the 70s, since when they were formed. So they have a lot of dollars and a lot of power there. So perhaps it's kind of an intimidation thing that commissioners just go along to appease a sheriff. Okay. Seems reasonable, at least. Now, remember, some of this comes back on the constables themselves. Okay. So we're going to be fair here, not just pick on our sheriffs. If you hide what you do in a shoebox under the bed, nobody is going to know. So I'm going to point out that a lot of our constables may not be the king of publicity. They may not understand the importance of talking about what they do in the community, because these guys are just doing it because they love it. They get out, and every night there's maybe a little different adventure. They might talk between themselves about it, but there's not a whole lot of fanfare like there are with sheriff departments. Sheriff departments have media people. They have people that represent media relations. That, when they make a drug bust, it goes out to all the major networks, the local media. Constables are usually not that organized. Remember, they're working for free. They don't have a hired PR person. So while I'm saying it's a little bit their fault, it is and it isn't. But they have to understand that if they're not able to get the word out, that how are the county commissioners going to know what they're doing so they can be defended? How are the sheriffs aware of things that may not be totally publicized? So there's a lack of communication in a lot of these cases. So we can be our own worst enemy, to be fair. I think they can do a better job of that. And the Constable Association actually has stepped up and doing a lot more than they've ever done. So very proud to see that happening here in the state of Tennessee. They've got a very good board now, and hopefully it'll just get better and better as time goes along. And hopefully some of these communities can be restored. The constables hopefully can come back and the office can be voted back in as time goes along. Because we're getting into some rough territory, folks. We're getting into some tough times. And when these paid officers go from this position to another position because it pays better, or because they want to get out of the county because of certain things that happen unbeknown to us, or they just decide they want to deal with it anymore because it's getting too rough out there. Okay. That's when you will rely the most on your constables. First line of defense and many sheriffs. All right. Lack of sufficient, going back to the constables, Lack of sufficient lobbying in local and state government. Building relationships with other elected officials is vital. So I see that as has been a problem with our constables. Like I said, they're just doing it out of their love for their community. They have skin in the game in their community. That's the biggest difference I can see between a constable, an elected constable, and a sheriff. A sheriff could live across town. His staff can live in different places, even out of town. Okay. And that constable could be right down the street. Usually it's a very small, tight-knit community. And that's where a lot of our heroic things has happened with our constables, is because of their location at the time of the emergency. So we need to establish relationships with those people. And a lot of that goes back to the media. It needs to be established to protect our men and women who are in the constable uniform. The state law was established to eliminate constables over time. I really believe that. Like I said, 1977, they were removed from the Constitution. Lobbyists influenced lawmakers to create the legislation, making constables a target to defund or abolish at the whim of a sheriff or county commission. This should never have been allowed, and this is something that I have been voicing to my contacts that should change, and they should find someone in the state house that they can pretty much work to establish a relationship with that can make that happen. So a lot of this can totally be reversed over time, but here we are, 1977 to 2024, and we've lost about 37 to 40% of our counties because of bad information and because of politics. So anyway, that is all I have to say about that tonight. I will have a date on when the second reading, they are not totally abolished until the second reading. So we actually have about a month to prepare for the next Greene County Commission meeting. And hopefully we can bring everyone locally there, and maybe some of you folks over to that county commission meeting. We had some dialogue online the other day with some people that you could tell they were totally misinformed about constables, didn't even understand what they do and how valuable they are. And they were asking me, well, why are you involved? You're from another county. And I said, well, it's because what you do in your county affects our county. Because what happens, folks, is when they come after any type of law enforcement, whether it's constables, police, sheriff, whatever it is, it starts a domino effect. It emboldens other sheriffs that don't like said position. It emboldens the commissioners to say, well, they did it over here. I guess we can start thinking about it in our county. So yeah, you have a right to be involved in Greene County, because what they're doing is affecting us over here, and we're not going to have it. So we basically just we're trying to hopefully talk to some of those folks that are on the commission that voted for it, and hopefully they voted for it because of bad information. I was not there because of the inclement weather. I couldn't even get out of my driveway. I had planned to go down and have a little rally and even talk from a citizen's perspective. And there were not many people that could even get to that meeting because of the bad roads. And so even though they postponed the original meeting, I don't think they had that many people there. So I'm hoping that this month will give us time to mobilize and get the courthouse full of people that understand the value of constables. And hopefully we can get in front of some of those commissioners and talk with them about why they should never support defunding or abolishing constables. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to try to add my guest. I want to tell you a little bit about him. And guys, This is toboggan night, bad hair day, whatever you want to call it. My hair looked terrible today. So I went out in the cold and kind of liked it. I thought, well, I'm just going to keep this look. I kind of rock it a little bit. So added some earrings, and here I am. You're stuck with me tonight. You don't have to look at my roots. I need to get my roots done. So you ladies know what I'm talking about. All right, let me get over here. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of information about our guest. I can find my place. All right. All right. So I want to introduce you to a man who has worked in the political trenches, supporting such outspoken politicians and congressmen as Rand Paul. Y'all know Mr. Rand Paul, going way back there, but he's still a very active part of our government. He is going to talk with us about the importance of the Iowa and New Hampshire caucuses and what the general mood is around the country that is affecting we the people right here at home. All right, so let me get my little untechnical fingers over here. Get him added. All right. Hello, Mr. Madison. How are you this evening?
I'm wonderful, Stephanie. Can you hear me good?
Welcome to our podcast. I think we're going to have a little volume issue with you. I can barely hear you.
How about now? Can you hear me better now?
That's much better. I think it was on my end, actually. Sorry about that.
How's that?
All right. That's much better.
I got a fancy device here.
Yeah, you're kind of flickering. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the reason I got sunglasses on is because you said you wanted so much light that I put so much on I couldn't see. So I put the sunglasses on so I could see better.
There used to be an old song, I wear my sunglasses at night. Is that familiar to you?
And I do that. That's true. And I appreciate the resume that you gave me, because I certainly had no intention of mentioning any of those things. But, you know, I've got some experience in politics and following political trends and things like that. And I didn't know that I was going to discuss primaries, but since we're going into it, I just looked a few minutes ago. Trump is leading by 6 points in New Hampshire with 23% of the vote in. Most of you know that he's projected to win. In fact, some of the networks have already called him as the winner, but it's by how much he wins that's going to be important. And I think that's what you really wanted me to talk about tonight. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And I would like to hear your thoughts about the general political consensus out there right now, how people are feeling at home, not only about the country and DC, but how they're feeling right here at home and how it kind of relates back to our local governments.
Well, all you have to do is watch 10 minutes or 20 minutes of any of the mainstream media. They're running polls constantly on what people think of the economy, their life in general, the way their money is being handled, so on and so forth. All of the polls, not just some of them, all of them show a negative viewpoint of what's going on in the country. Now, that's not new. In fact, in some places in the country, it never changes, as we know. But right now, this is one of the largest negativity towards an established government, not just an established administration, but a government in general. And you're seeing the rhetoric flying from left and right about what's happening in the country right now. It's not a pretty picture. It's really not. And I don't know that anybody's going to be able to repair it anytime soon. But just taking it right down to where you are there in Union County, Tennessee, and East Tennessee in general, you can see on the highways that the business is slowing down. It's not just the weather. It's not just the time of year. You all know, people who live there, you see your prices rising. You see your taxes going up. Of course, that we'll mention that eventually, but you see the government not doing its job. And you can argue the details about that, but I don't think anybody's going to argue that they're seeing that in a broad viewpoint. What say you, Stephanie?
I'd say you're right. We've been talking about this for almost a year about this oncoming economic upheaval, uncertainty, times of great uncertainty, and warning the public. And of course, we've been called names and conspiracy theorists and cult and everything else because we were trying to warn the public that when all these tax increases happened here on the local level, they were going to feel the pain, maybe not immediately, but they were very much going to feel the pain in 24. What say you, James?
Well, what we've got here going on in the country, we've had a several years where we allowed everybody to have credit, and we've blown our credit cards up. Everybody has, including the government. We're $33 trillion in debt. We've had a massive influx of immigration. Call it whatever you want. That's what it is. So we've got literally millions of people here who don't know anything about the history of the United States, or very little, that don't see things the way you see them. Those of you that are Americans and have been here all your lives, you see a world that's changed dramatically in front of you. You've seen your school systems go from teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic. Maybe I sound like a boomer now, but anyway, you've seen them go from teaching that to how you feel about things, and whether you want to be a boy or a girl. This is a foreign world to most people, to most Americans, especially rural Americans. And the whole movement now to get rid of this administration and replace it with Donald Trump and his administration is a movement that is gaining momentum as we speak. You can see it right now. And you may not like it. You may not like every aspect about it, but the movement itself is just about changing. We've got to go back to what we were doing before. That's what the people are seeing, whether they're left, whether they're right, whether they're poor, whether they're rich. And what's happening here is you've got to decide what banner you're going to fly under. And the Republican Party has not done or even flown under the flag that it's supposedly had on the ship. Small government, our government's bigger than ever. George Bush tripled the size of the school systems. Tripled. Okay. This is supposed to be a Republican, small government, low taxes. Our taxes are worse than ever. And in fact, there in Union County, that's a perfect example. Adding more pain to the misery you're already facing from inflation, done by Republicans. People flying under a banner that says low taxes, less government, less regulations. They were even talking about zoning in rural area over there. Okay, what's the next banner they supposedly fly under? Close the border, close the border. What have they done? Nothing to close the border. In fact, in Union County there, they brought in a chicken farm, a foreign-owned chicken farm. Okay. Where are the Republicans? That's what's happening in Washington right now. Mitch McConnell people are finding out Mitch McConnell is not a Republican. He's with Nancy Pelosi. It's a uni party. You're starting to see this on your local level as well as you're up in Washington. if you watch your mainstream news, you're going to see the vast array of the characters that they want you to see. But in reality, there is only one party. And if you don't believe me, just watch. Just see it on the news. Just see what they say. Look at your own commission. Look at some of the words that they have said. They will sound exactly like the other party that you're supposed to be against, if you're a Republican, that is, on the mainstream media. They use the same rhetoric. What's happening in this movement, this voting for Trump, whether you like him, whether you don't, you know, whatever you want about him. This movement is to change all that. It's to go back to the roots. It's almost religious in a sense. It's where we've become so corrupt that we have to go back now to our roots. Not just the Republicans, but the Democrats also. They have to go back to being the party that cared about the poor and not the party that made the poor poorer in order to vote for them. They need to change their rhetoric. They need to change the whole thing needs to be changed. And that's what's happening in the country right now, whether you like it or not. That's what's going to happen. And some of the rhetoric is actually scary in a sense. Anyway, I'll leave that up. I've preached enough to your poor audience tonight.
Well, the thing that it's not just the poor, it's also the working class that the Democrats used to hail as the ones that they got behind in promoting them to the top and helping them to have jobs and all these benefits, and had the labor unions on fire back in the day. And they've just turned totally against the working class of this country. And it's almost like the working class is being eliminated. You had COVID basically shut us down. If we didn't offer an essential service or job, we were told we were second class, third class, and we were shut down. I mean, my business is a perfect example. My business went from climbing up the ladder as fast as it could to leveling out and finally going down, like a balloon. And that's what's happened to people in their jobs. That's what's happened to their careers. That's what's happened to people's small businesses. And it's like, if you have a work ethic in this country, you're just pretty much being told, sit down, shut up, and leave town. We don't care about you anymore. So stick it. Is that what you're?
That's the same as censorship.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same as censorship. That's exactly what they get mad at Facebook about Google, about all these other big tech censorship of right-wing views or of conservative views. Let's don't say right-wing. Let's say conservative. Well, what do the so-called Republicans turn around and do? And try to censor information that they don't like after they claim to have small government. Look at what they did with the COVID. Did any of the Republicans stand up and say, "Oh no, we have to stop this vaccine. You're gonna lose your job if you don't get vaccinated"? Did any of them stand up and say that? Did they do that in your schools, in your local counties? Believe me, they had plenty of them that were in line to do that if some of your governors didn't stop it. How can you call yourself a conservative, a Republican, a libertarian in any sense if you're going to be for these things? How can you do that? I don't know. But it's rampant now, and it has to change. And it is changing, and it's going to change faster than we think it will, actually. But the changes aren't going to be pretty, and nobody's probably going to be any happier now or next year than they are now. But the weaponization of government, that telling you to move is another weaponization of government. Okay. Getting rid of the constables is another weaponization of government. This is being done by the people who are supposed to be for smaller government. Just ask the transplants. They will tell you. You don't like them, but they'll tell you the truth. They're fleeing from the same thing that some of your Republicans are doing, and they see it. They see it starts with an inch and it ends up a mile. What did it start with? Oh, this, oh, that. Next thing you know, you have 2 tax increases. Looking for a third from Republicans. You tell me. Are they Republicans or the uni party? We're going to find that out as the election comes closer. Because when you can't put that MAGA hat on, because it doesn't look good with that tax raiser shirt that you'll have to wear with it. Okay. With that big government shirt you have to wear with that MAGA hat, it won't look good. It won't match. And the elections will bear that out in not only the next election, but in the election after. Not just in the Republican Party, but in the Democrat Party too. Because the people have had enough from every stripe. From the far left to the far right, to the middle, to the up, to the down, the poor, everybody's had enough. We're going broke. Shit's not getting done. The border's wide open. Crime rate is soaring. People put out their credit cards. They can't get mortgages. They can't get loans. Can't buy cars. It's getting bad. I don't care what the figures tell you. You argue those with me. But you know as well as anybody knows why he wants to let those school loans be forgiven. Because if you don't, you're going to start seeing bank collapses.
So I did reach out.
If you make them pay the school loan, they won't be able to pay. There won't be any money in the system, and the banks will start to collapse, the smaller ones. That's why those school loans, it's a bribery. I'm just letting you know now before it happens.
So what would be your advice to our fine citizens out there that and you've seen our activism, you know that we're actively involved in fighting taxation here in Union County, and we've actually pushed a lot of the county commissioners back a little bit and made them punt at least. What would be your best advice for anyone finding themselves in these crunches that we're getting? These aren't just crunches. These are devastating blows to the economy, to people's pocketbooks, especially when those jobs start getting lost. What kind of advice do you have?
Well, from my understanding, are we talking about the country in general, or Union County, or Claiborne County, or Knox County? Are we talking about East Tennessee? When you say tax rate,
citizens to just, things they can do to make it maybe a little bit easier. I know it's not going to be easy fall, but to make the landing a little bit softer as far as their own insulation.
Well, there's not a lot. Some of them can do, simply because they're, the average individual is living, 40% of the public's living like week to week. So you can't coach. You can coach all you want on how to prepare for a downturn in the economy, but it all, each individual is different. But as far as what has happened is in Union County, you can have that reversed. Another thing you can find out, did they ever get the money that they wanted to borrow?
I've reached out to one of the commissioners, and
find out if anybody loaned them the money.
Yeah, she's supposed to be getting that answer. Yes, I did reach out to Miss Murphy, and she's getting me that answer.
But they were well aware of where the economy was going. They were well aware of that when they raised your taxes. And the excuse for raising the taxes, from my understanding of it, from watching the meetings, was that they needed a new school. Well, everybody needs a new school, don't they? But do you want to go $40 million or how much money or whatever they went, 20 million in debt, going into a bad economy? And why are you, as Republicans, worried so much about school systems and not trying to find somebody to pay more taxes? You know, trying to promote business that would pay taxes. Why are you always why are they always looking to tax things that already exist rather than helping to promote or create things that could be taxed? Do you ever ask that question of the Republicans? Because you'll notice in rural counties, they don't ever think that. They seldom, very few of them think that.
Yeah, they usually evade the question, honestly, and they start calling us names. That's pretty much the response we get from their shields, at least.
Well, that's, you know.
But relative to the cost of education, it's around $17,000 per student. You may have heard me discussing that earlier. It's about $7,000 from the state of Tennessee. And that is the money they're talking about allocating if we get the bill through that allows school choice. The rest of the money comes from federal and local taxation. Now, we've had some parents ask us this question, which I thought was pretty, at least people are thinking, is, well, why should I have to pay for an empty seat in a school that's costing so much money? If I take my kid out and the state is paying for my kid, why should I have to continue to pay at least the local dollars to fund that empty seat in that school? And I think that's a very good question. What say you, James?
Well, I would say it depends on the state you're in. And in Tennessee, I'd say you're getting a pretty good deal because now someone may correct me on this one, but I believe that most of the money comes from the federal government and not from the state. Am I wrong? Most of the money for their school systems probably come from the federal government in block grants.
That is true. And for some reason, I'm thinking 16% is from the state.
Well, whatever it is, it really doesn't matter because the federal government is going to end up cutting the education budget very soon. And that's going to trickle all the way down to Tennessee. And it won't trickle as much to Tennessee, perhaps, as other states, depending on the election again. But they're going to have to take cuts in their budget, just like all the welfare systems are, probably Social Security, whether you want to hear that or not. Now, cuts can come in the form of lowering inflation, but I don't see that happen. But that's another story. The school choice is always the best option because of the word choice. Anytime there's a choice, that's always the best option. Now, whether the one takes that option correctly is another story. I'm not so sold on the bill of school choice as it's presented to me at this point, but there is no doubt that every parent should have a right in my opinion, as an American under this Constitution, to educate their child the way they see fit. That's just my view, but someone else may have a different one.
That is actually the consensus. They did some polling when I went to Nashville this past month. The polling included liberals and conservatives. Around 70 to 80% all agreed they would rather have individual educational freedom, or as they say, school choice. I call it educational freedom for their child. And I mean, when it comes down to your child's education, whether you're a Christian or you're woke or whatever, you should have a right to educate your child in a system where you feel they're getting the best education, whether it's a private school, a pod school, a private Christian-based Catholic school, whatever it is. There's going to be schools, from my understanding, there's something for everyone. It's not a cookie cutter type situation where they're all going in and they're all learning the same state curriculum that's like the federal government does it. So each school will have their individual curriculum and freedom.
Well, let me give you a little bit of history on the school system. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hold on just a second. Go ahead and talk.
Go ahead and talk. Oh, well, I'm always good at that. But when I went to college, I went to a small college, and there was about 2,500 students. And when I think it was my fourth semester started, I went to school and there was no parking spots because they had lowered the GPA from 3.0 to 2.5 or something to get into college. So immediately, millions, I guess, dollars of federal money or some sort of government money flowed through. So almost overnight, the school went from 2,500 students to 11,000. And of course, this caused a hell of a mess. But the point was, once you took and it made education basically free, or you lowered the standard of education. Now, that's just my experience. I taught for 6 years in university, and I'm not going to go on about who's educated, who's not. Basically, what we've done here in this country is taken education and called it something that we should never have called it. Because somebody who can plow a field, plant a garden, shoe a horse, put a transmission in a car is far more educated than I am. Because if those things have to be done and I have to do them, then we're not going to get them done. So what is more valuable as far as a capitalistic trade in education than someone who can sit here and discuss, I don't want to make fun of anybody, but discuss some psychological or, philosophical point that doesn't affect anyone's life, like politics, kind of like what I'm doing, than having a guy that knows how to put brakes on your car, or how to fix your plumbing, or how do you fix your electric. What's more valuable in your life? Certainly not me, them. So, in my opinion, that should be stressed far more than any gender studies or studies of, something that's useless. If you want to study something useless, that's fine. If you can make a living and you're happy doing something useless, that's fine. But we don't need useless people. We need people who can put a roof on a house, who can fix a car. We need men who want to be military men. This is what's happened to us. We've become a country of, we're not what we grew up to be, what our founding fathers envisioned us to be. We've become something different. Now, I don't think you have to be on the left, hard right to see that. Even Gen Zers and millennials tell me that they think they're not going to see the country they grew up in at later parts of their life. And that's scary. Scary to think that.
Well, it's so much different. My children. Yeah, my children tell me, but both of them, which I mean, I obviously been around a long time. I know the differences from when they were little till now. They can even see it. They even know the world is a much different place than what welcomed them into it. And so the kids, for the most part, that I talk to, although they may like or be kind of into some of these new things, they still miss the old ways, and so they see it and they feel it. But you're absolutely right. And the trades, when I was in school back in the dinosaur days, I went to a school that was a inner city trade school, and they taught us all types of trades. And for all of you who probably remember, you're older, the auto mechanics. They taught school. We had that. We had cosmetology. We had even drafting. We had engineering. We had all kinds of office administration. We were learning in high school. That's a public high school. And I loved it because I'm a hands-on learner. I'm a visual hands-on learner. So that school for me was perfect and learned a lot. But if I were to try to fit in mold to one of these schools now, I don't think I'd be very happy in a school situation. I think I'd be very bored. Just knowing my personnel.
I love myself. I like school. I like learning about things. Maybe some of them are useless to some people, but it's no different than sort of an antique dealer. I'm going to use an antique dealer for an example. Someone who's spent a lifetime learning about those things, antiques, different styles, that's very similar to archaeology. Mm-hmm. Those talents are quite valuable. In certain businesses, but are they valuable in common everyday life? Well, yes, you could argue that, but where I'm going with this is our tech. We have the finest tech in the world right here in the United States. We're moving one of the Taiwanese plants is coming to the United States. It's $6 billion, I think, in Texas. But anyway, where I'm going with this is we need those skilled laborers, and they're importing them from India, China, Japan, other countries because of our education level being so low. That it's not that we don't have people that can do these jobs. It's that they're being held back by trying a school system that's trying to uniformize everyone. They would argue and say, "Oh no, everyone's an individual. We've got a different thing for." Yes, but that's confusion. What you're doing is you're individualizing by confusion. What I mean is, if your son or daughter or whatever is mathematically gifted, but yet they're not some other gift, they should not be forced to go through a school system that disregards that talent. Mm-hmm. If they would be better off in an accounting office, if they're a mathematical kid at the age of 13 or 14 years old, being taught by the local bookkeeper, because by the time the kid was 18, he'd be able to take over the business if he was that gifted. Same with the mechanic, the same with the whatever, the farmer, the whatever. These are the things that our ancestors did. They sent their kids off to school when they saw that they were talented, that they could learn something besides whatever that the family was doing. If they saw that a kid was not capable of becoming a banker, they didn't send him off to school. They taught him how to farm. And this is, maybe it's sad news for people, but look, I could not be, I'm not someone that could ever work on mechanical things. So it would have been useless to make me go to shop class. But there were others who excelled in that, and they should have been.
You probably would have enjoyed the economics class. So,
well, I don't know what I would have enjoyed at a young age. We tend to think by the time someone's 18, they should know where they're going in life. And because, when I was a child at my age, yes, we were supposed to know where we were going by 18. But today, they're 30, they don't know where they're going. Mm-hmm. But one thing we can all know where we're going. We're economically not going very well. And politically, we're not going well. And militarily, we're not going well. So leave that as it may. I'm going to give you another topic to throw up there because God knows I can comment on anything. It's just a pleasure to be with all of you tonight.
Well, I think that everybody was a little slow getting on. I shared us out to some groups, and then all of a sudden, I had 4 or 5 people on instead of 0. So I don't know what happened to our folks tonight. I actually put out the I put out the notices early this morning and had about 15 say they were going to join us, but we didn't see them. So I don't know if it's because of the caucus that people were watching on television or what, but
that's probably what it is. I mean,
we haven't had that many people on this tonight, but that's okay because these play out through the week and we'll share them out to our network. There's Barbara England. Hi, Barbara. How are you this evening? She's posting over here on the right. And Jeanette is over here. She's posted something about New Hampshire. So anyone, welcome everybody. I don't know if you didn't see it or what. Oh, Barbara said hers just showed up. So I think Facebook has been playing a little game with us since last week. They basically put us in jail because we played a song, ACDC song at the beginning. I think it flagged their almighty algorithm that they love to censor conservatives with. It's always conservatives, that get have these problems. The people that I know that the shill leaders in the community, they don't get censored. So that tells you a lot right there. What's going on. But anyway, we'd love to have you back in the future, Mr. Madison, and appreciate your insight. And I would have loved to have asked you a lot of questions. I'm sure that you've had some amazing experiences in your political universe, and perhaps we can have you back on soon.
Well, I'm always available to come back on the show, and soon I'm going to be doing my own show, and I'm hoping that all of you will come and watch it because I'm just going to have some guests and spout off about a few things. And if any of you want to be on the show and spout off about a few things, feel free. We'll probably be on Rumble, or so you can probably say whatever you want to say within reason and within the culture, of course. But so I appreciate you having me on, Steph, and thank you again.
You're welcome, Mr. Madison, and you have a wonderful rest of your night and be safe out there. Have a good night. All right, guys. I hope everybody's doing well. For those of you who just tuned into our podcast, we have been talking with Mr. James Madison. You may have seen his name around on some of our social media sites. He's an interesting guy. He comes to us from the trenches of politics, has worked on some very notable campaigns, including Mr. Rand Paul back in the day. And so we're always happy to have different perspectives on our podcast. Miss England, I see you're on tonight. Are you still there? Answer me if you can. I'd like to hear from you on your sewing class. I didn't know if you were having one coming up in the next little bit. Sorry, my nose is itching, guys. Okay, she says she is. Can you put the date up, and I will say something about that on the podcast, because this will be recorded out and shared out into the community. Wait on you to do that. And remember to join us on February the 6th on our trip to Nashville. We're actually invited by some folks that are renting they're renting a bus, and they're going to take us off for free. They're paying our food and everything. So just a group of conservatives that want to see educational choice in our state. And at this point, we do have the ability to draft that legislation the way we see fit. If we don't like it, we're going to kill the bill in committee. I remember when my brother Chad was in there, we always watched those bills. He watched those bills all the time. And I learned a lot about the process from that experience. So, all right. So Miss England says that her sewing class will be on the 1st of February. Monday in February. First Monday in February, not the first, but the first Monday in February at the Miller Chapel Methodist Church at 12 in front of McDonald's. Now, for those of you who are just tuning in, we're having a mingle, a dessert mixer. That will be on January 30th, which is the day after the county commission meeting. That's next, I believe it's next Tuesday at Hardee's at 7 p.m. Be sure to bring a dessert. It could be as simple as cookies. I know some of you are going, my cookies aren't simple. And boy, it reflects in the taste too. I know some of you ladies and gentlemen have great cookie recipes, and I love cookies. That's my favorite dessert. Or if you want to bring a pie or a cake or something unique, that maybe some homemade ice cream. Oh, burr. Whatever it is that you want to bring that's sweet. If you got a sweet tooth, just bring it with you next Tuesday night to Hardee's. And just like I said, be sure to buy a drink from them. That's how we make sure that it's worth their while to host us over in their little front room there. We're going to hopefully have us a speaker. I'm trying to get somebody rounded up to speak to us. Hopefully someone here locally. I'd love to have someone concerning our educational choice over, but I don't know if that's going to be possible that fast. But we'll have someone there to speak with us, and hopefully someone we can gain some insight from and some information from. And then on the 6th, you all can join us on that bus ride over to Nashville. I'd love to sit with you guys. We're going to have a great time. Like I said, we're going to meet around 7 o'clock in the morning on the 6th. And usually we meet at Food City and Halls, or we may even meet up here in Maynardville. If we get enough people, they will bring the bus up here and everybody can just ride on down to Nashville with us. Last time we had high wind and rain with us. So we had a pretty wild trip down, and but it was not that bad actually. I slept some of the way down there. And I'm a control freak. I don't like other people driving, but it was not really that bad. So very safe driver, and I think you guys would enjoy having a bus trip. So it's kind of like having a field trip. Remember those? Let's see. Next time we do our podcast, that's going to be probably in a couple of weeks. I'm going to talk about the school board. They actually are elected on March the 5th, I believe is our election. I do not know who is running on the local level. I wanted to get that information today, but because of the scheduling and everything, we did not get a hold of anybody. I'm also waiting to hear from Commissioner Connor Murphy about the school loan. We're trying to make sure we got that school loan. It's called a bond, and she's supposed to be getting back with me on that. She did send me a little text during the snow that said she was still working on that for me because she was having to make some phone calls. So if you'd like to be involved in the the constable issue in Greene County, also reach out to me. We've got a month to work on that. We may be making a trip up there to talk to some commissioners, and basically they've just got a lot of bad information for those of you who are just joining us. They've got a lot of bad information that we're trying to set straight. Be sure to like and share this. One of the ways that you guys can help me tonight is go ahead, and if you have not subscribed to our channel on YouTube, go on over there. Please go over there. We need to get that YouTube channel built up. That way we don't have to depend. Facebook lately has been terrible. I mean, it has been awful. They have censored us, and basically I think they're throttling us and keeping us from going out to as many people because we are conservative and they've identified our site as conservative. So, we're fighting these forces and help us out. Let's teach them a lesson and let them know that we, the people, will not be told to shut up, sit down, and leave the county. Okay. So did you all see the little meme I put up there about the shills and politicians telling us to leave the county? I thought that was kind of cute. I've been sharing that. Anytime that you see one of those posts on a Union County group, be sure to save that in your phone and respond with that. That is hilarious. It's got our logo on it, so it helps us too. It actually has our YouTube channel on it so that people can start joining that YouTube channel. I really want to get that channel built up, so be sure to ask your friends and your family to subscribe to us on YouTube. I'd really like to get that built up so we can get away. We'll always be on Facebook, but I just don't want to be dependent on Facebook. There is a big difference for on YouTube, and eventually on Rumble, we can get free of those jack wagons. Okay. So be sure to do that and have others to do that as well. All right. If nobody else has any questions, I think we're done for the night. I think we have a record breaking podcast, just an hour and 18 minutes. That's amazing. So I won't be hoarse tonight. So, but anyway, you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Be safe out there. Remember to do something for your country this week. It can be in many forms, whether it's making a phone call to a state senator or a representative or a local county commissioner, letting them know your thoughts on the processes that's going on, whether it's something that you don't like they're doing or something you like they're doing. Also call them when that happens. Just communicate out there and let them know that you're very much involved in the process. You're keeping an eye on things. You are the boss. We, the people, are the boss, not the politicians. They are there to serve we, the people. And so sometimes they have to be reminded of that. And we can do that with humility and respect. So you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Like I said, we'll see you at County Commission. Be sure you're there. It's next Monday night. God bless you. See you soon. Good night.